Back with you later on this Tuesday afternoon. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now with a severe thunderstorm warning in play for portions of southwestern Georgia. Also a little bit of Gadsden County in there as well. And this goes until about 5:30. So we just need to be kind of careful here. We've already had now a situation where damaging winds were confirmed out toward Mariana, and they're about to enter into that threat in our 62 counties. So I know. Let's see our coverage map real quick just to kind of reiterate what I'm talking about here. So this warning does include areas of Gadsden in Florida, in our area, and in Decatur, Early, Miller, and Seminole in Georgia until that bottom of that 5 o'clock hour there. So again, just going to have to go ahead and be taking precaution here because, again, it's kind of unusual. We were waiting maybe to see if we'd get one of these. We don't get it all that often with storming. It's looking pretty bad out there in Jackson County, but actually a confirmed gust there at the airport there in Mariana, just severe limits, meaning this could have quite a bit of wind here with it that could cause some issues. Maybe not just down to the south, but up here as well, extending back down there toward that area. So just gotta be kind of careful here. We have areas there around, it looks like Colquitt, Donaldsonville. Some of these areas I'm going to start listing off, but just outside of the area as well. But Mariana, Bainbridge, West Bainbridge, Chattahoochee, Malone, Sneads, Grand Ridge, Greenwood, Iron City, Brinson, Bascom, Crosby, Recovery, Lovedale, Delwood, Donaldsonville Airport, and some of these surrounding zones here. Roy, with this threat is, again, the airport got to 59 miles an hour there at about 3:41 Central Time, and those winds are moving out of Jackson County and into especially Seminole County here over the next few moments. These could knock out power. They could cause issues along those lines. Things that can knock out power, including are really just the trees falling there in the region and tree limbs falling, and you kind of get the idea, and that stuff would be because of that wind falling onto the power lines. So got to be kind of careful here. Just got to be really mindful here. What we're dealing with, this stuff's moving east at 25 miles an hour. For your protection, you want to move to that lowest floor of your building and interior room if you can. Even it's in a tornado situation. We got to be careful. I know there's even a push of wind out ahead, and this might be a sign that we could get eventually maybe a little bit of weakening here, but right now we can't take any chances because we've had a confirmed gust of severe limits in the Mariana area. I mean, we've had a severe storm that has been verified that's moving toward our 62 counties right now. We'll have to see how long things hold together, but right now we have this warning in play until 5:30. Doesn't look quite as aggressive as it did a moment ago. That push of wind should be a sign that it's going to weaken some, but don't want to take any chances with a confirmed gust. I mean, that means we have had some damaging conditions, a potential back out west there. You see even 50 here most recently, but 58, 59, I know there just a little while ago. So again, some nasty winds there in that area for sure. In parts of our 62 counties, and we have some other storms as well that are just west of the area that are there's at severe limits. You can see a warning for Dale and Coffee until 4:30. That's moving east at 30 miles an hour. Up to see if that holds together into Georgia. And another area, Dale and Henry, until 4:30 Central Time, moving east at 20 miles an hour. So again, just gonna continue to watch things here, continue to monitor things as the timeline does go along here. I just see if this stuff can kind of get into towards some of those western, southwestern Georgia counties here at severe limits. You just got to be kind of mindful of what could happen here with these storms. They don't look aggressive on radar, but they've had that damaging potential characteristic with them. We'll have to see if other storms can kind of get in the way. But right now, we have this threat that's moving in towards southwest Georgia, at least the area down toward the south here. As we have those winds of potential coming into Seminole County, Georgia at this hour. I know strong storms just west of Albany here. Gusts up to 50 possible at this complex. Southern Terrell County looks like it's really standing out there. But then we have this area here, just southwest of Ozark. And then you have the Fort Rucker radar site area there. That's where we have some nasty weather going on, some nasty stuff going on here with the conditions here in terms of the wind that's showing up a little bit stronger a few moments ago on that. It was really aggressive for a moment there, right into the radar. This weekend, now this here is weekend some maybe two, but it's up to just keep watching it here. You have to keep watching it here. It kind of strengthening a weekend a bit. But again, you have this overall situation here. We have these issues here with these boundaries. I know things is trying to come together from time to time, and you have to be cognizant here that some of this stuff can be problematic in nature. So again, I just gonna keep checking here all of our latest scans. And let me check North Carolina right now, real quick too. We'll move away from area just for a moment because I know we've had some really nasty weather, even a destructive warning was in play for a little while ago for some of these areas. As I was looking, not seeing the winds quite as strong, maybe points, but still gotta be kind of careful there from that national standpoint around Raleigh. And there is points off toward the north and the east. But back to this view here, again, we have this warning in play at about 5:30 Eastern Time for areas of Gadsden County, northwestern Gadsden, and Florida, but really focus more on western Decatur, southern Miller, southwestern Early, and Seminole counties in Georgia. So again, I'm just gonna keep checking things here. Go back west of Ozark. You can see that this stuff could be an issue later on. You have the stuff near the radar side, and just have to kind of see. Hopefully that stuff kind of fades, but there could be other storms that take over in this type of volatile setup. So got to keep that in mind here as well. As I go ahead and put on the current temperatures. You can kind of see what's going on. There's some of these numbers in toward the 90s. We'll have to watch those. And as we get over to George Jacksonville, you can kind of see here toward that southern St. Augustine, or south side of St. Augustine over next little bit maybe, but especially southern St. Johns County, we're seeing some strengthening, it looks like here. We have flood advisory in play for parts of Flagler, Putnam, and St. John now at 8 o'clock as well, but this could end up being something that'll end up needing a warning here over the next little bit. We're starting to see some strengthening right into the interstate down there, so that could cause a little bit of damage. Northern Flagler County as well. Seeing some strengthening northwestern Flagler. I know it's cooled off further back to the west, but over there a little bit warmer, a little bit more favorable conditions there, more favorable air mass. Just have to be kind of keeping tabs on things. We go back toward the west here. Again, some of these aren't as impressive as they were. That boundary pushing out ahead, hopefully, will be a sign this is weakening some, but some of that wind from that will be probably getting down toward the surface around Donaldsonville right now. So got to keep that in mind there in Seminole County. Let's see that 19-mile-an-hour reading. That's from earlier. Yeah, that's from earlier. Just going to keep watching things. Keep tabs on things here. Let me see what else we might want to go to. Let me see if we have something here on instability values. So you see how things have been worked over in North Central Florida, Northeast Florida, except for Flagler, St. John's, and areas there like toward, it looks like a Dixie and Levy in general. But in Georgia here, you see around Albany, not so much, and around Liberty and Franklin and the Big Bend, not so much either. So I mean, even you see a little corridor there, just in our far northern southeast Georgia zones too. To some extent, Douglas there, 95 degrees still. But again, I'm just giving you guys the very latest on what's going on. Let me zoom back out a bit. I know we have some watches up in Mid-Atlantic toward the northeast even. We'll keep our eyes on those, of course, if the thunderstorm watches in play. I just updated this warning here in Alabama, one of them that's in play. They canceled Coffee, but they're continuing Dale County there. So just an update on that. We'll have to see if this stuff kind of spreads over. Right now, I would think this would be the one here that's the bigger complex. This stuff here. We could get pulses up, though, of energy, really, and then that could cause some problems here. I know some areas further up to the north and west will dry out a little bit more so than our other areas here. So that's something that's kind of interesting here, worth noting. But again, I'm just continuing to give you guys the very latest here. giving you guys the very latest on what's happening. I know we were talking about it earlier on, these warnings further on up there. That stuff kind of coming together pretty quick as we're looking there toward Coffee and toward Dale and some of those zones there. You can kind of see what I'm talking about. But a lot of boundaries. Hopefully all the boundaries just kind of hit enough where things will kind of fall off, but that's not necessarily going to be the case. So could just cause strengthening in some of these areas as well and cause more warnings that have to be required. You can see this area here, seeing some gustier winds west of Albany. You see some of this wind coming in toward southwest Georgia. At least 40 to 50. It would seem like the 60 chance has dropped some, I would say. The 58, 60 chance here. That's what we had out over Mariana, but I think this has weakened a pretty good bit, actually. That boundary, it's pretty obvious that that stuff's decayed a pretty good bit over the last little bit here, so that's the good news. That's definitely some good news, but we have to keep watching and keep tracking it. Just in case here, let's get back toward the south. It needs a lot of light in southern parts of St. John's and in the northwestern Flagler County still. Again, you see areas that are just east of Hastings over to Crescent Beach and Summer Haven and Marineland and even Palm Coast, some nasty weather, especially west of Dinner Island, though. A little bit more prominent even. So you got to be careful there in that regard. I know as we're looking at things, that some of those high school football forecasts are going to be important here as we look ahead as well. I know Bradford playing an exhibition game this Thursday, so things are really happening quicker in the high school football world. But we'll be watching the forecast for that, of course, see if the weather interferes. But let's go ahead and go back over here. You can kind of see this is really, really decayed. I mean, going from a surefire confirmed severe thunderstorm to seeing only winds about 40 in here now, not that far off the ground, really. I mean, this is weakened on off a good bit as it pushes toward Donaldsonville. You do not see this very often, by the way. Stuff weakened that quickly here. I mean, when you have a confirmed gust, at least, not something that's speculative, but actually a confirmed severe gust to go from that to stuff that doesn't really look severe at this point. But let's just keep watching a little longer. You can see a little bit, maybe more on this radar. It's a little further up, still showing some winds to 50 maybe in there. That's not out of the question. A little bit of lingering wind damage could happen, the potential in toward southwest Georgia over the next few moments with that. We got other storms that could go severe on us at any time, though. So let's not let our guard down here. I mean, we got this one here west of Albany that could get a warning. We got stuff out here that has warning. We'll have to see if those kind of fall off. This one here looks like it could be developing some. Even that one there west of Eufaula. A lot of different areas that are candidates here. This one here's a candidate probably as well. I mean, yeah, I mean, you see all that red there for the wind. This looks pretty hefty right now here around I-95 and just east of there now. Moving toward Marineland, getting some winds that are pretty strong in there. At this point in time, gusts up to 50 miles an hour if possible, according to the Weather Service. That's the only advisory in the Jacksonville counties right now. It looks like, I know there's a marine warning off the coast of looks like Camden there and Glen, but especially Glen at this point. But again, you can kind of see here, not anything really with that like it was earlier on. So we're seeing a decaying process with that as well. So again, just gonna continue to watch things there. Warning up there in southeastern parts of South Carolina. A little bit of a threat there of some wind damage. You have some other warnings, and they're not doing it justice sometimes because we're so far on the radar perspective. But again, just continuing to track things. There's a signature that's starting to come back alive there, just east and northeast of Echo there, and that's in Henry County. It kind of went away, and now it seems like it's trying to reemerge a little bit. So got to be careful there. That's the side of the area though, a little bit. Could be trying to move on over the next little bit. Again, this is falling apart about as quick as you can. I mean, that looks like almost nothing now. Wow. But since we have other candidates for warning, let's stick with this because we could get some warnings in different areas here pretty soon. If we didn't have there's storms that had a chance to get warnings, I'd just probably wrap it up at this point because that is falling off as quick as it ever gets. Go from confirmed damaging gust, looks pretty obvious to being severe on radar, to not being the case at all. So that's good news for Donaldsonville. Still could get a gust maybe to 40 in there. Not out of the question around Donaldsonville. still could cause a little bit of an issue. But the 60 potential seems like it's really winding down from this batch here at this point. So that's the good news. Yeah, look at how quickly that's falling off. But again, we'll keep watching a little longer. I wanted to touch on a couple other things here real quick if we can. I know we have a situation. Here where they get a couple storm reports in earlier on, and then it gets to 53 around Jacksonville Beach. It was, I believe it was. So that was some stronger wind coming in there. I haven't got damage reports out of that area though. The 2 damage reports we got are actually both before we had any warnings issued this afternoon there in the Jacksonville office, indicating there was a report of a tree down there caused by thunderstorm winds around 110 there, 3 miles west-northwest of Worthington Springs. It looks like, so that's information coming on in. That's information coming on in here from earlier this afternoon. Just kind of getting those details here in the Weather Center. Let me just kind of go through these a little bit more here, just to give you guys an idea of what we're talking about. So, again, I was in Union County, 110, report of a tree cut down caused by thunderstorm winds there in that vicinity around Worthington Springs. And then just continuing to check things here, though. Continuing to go through some of our different data points here. Just trying to let you guys know. The other one was at 117 there around Middleburg, where a tree was down on a power line. That was caused by the thunderstorm winds there. So Clay County and Middleburg have an impact. They were never under a warning in that part of the county at that time. As also did get a report around 3 o'clock. This isn't severe criteria, but it is a report of some damaging type conditions. It's just not, criteria is a little different. This was when we were on here around Mayport, 3 miles southwest of Mayport. A report of a home being struck by lightning. So you always got to watch out for those hazards, obviously. So something to touch on there as we continue along a little bit longer here. Let me go ahead and keep checking. Again, this is very, very, messy here. This is not severe at this point, I don't think. Maybe a little bit more wind in there, 40 range for a bit longer. But again, that's really falling off. That's really decayed here very rapidly, which is some good news. It's really, really weakened on us, which we like to see, obviously, here in the Weather Center. But we'll just keep checking things here, and let me see if I can kind of get you guys more information on what's happening. Just going between some of our different computer sources here. It's going between some of our different computer sources as we try to give you guys the very latest. Not seeing anything new there. Let's go ahead and go on over. So, again, this is really falling apart. Still a little bit of wind lingering in there, but maybe you can get a gust of 40 out of that. But this stuff here, a lot of lightning moving west there. It's west of Albany right now. Definitely could get a warning here pretty soon. A couple of different areas of enhancement there. One south of Sasser. Another northeast of Morgan. And then we have, again, the stuff there towards southeastern areas here, northeast Florida. Around Marine Land, some pretty strong winds. This was getting off the coast soon, but we had some warnings for stuff that was near the coast. As we were looking back in the timeline. So you just never know here. Could get more warnings than even though this stuff here right near the coast could get a quick warning from the Jacksonville office for some wind enhancement around Marine Land. Again, just checking here all of our different scans, trying to give you guys the very latest about what's going on here. Trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on, and see some stronger winds now. The Ozark there now, not as much right there near the radar at this point, but still got to be watching that stuff there west of Albany, because not out of the question we end up getting a warning out of this. It's showing winds there to about 45 right now, but It could be underdoing a little. You never know. The angle, the distance isn't the greatest from the radar. I mean, it's always possible. It could be overdoing it too, but right now, Weather Service says wind gets up to 50 possible in that area. Again, back to the southeast we go. I know we keep switching back and forth, but it's important to give you guys an update here, really radar scan by radar scan to see what's happening. Let's see, right there in Marineland, Summer Haven, they're getting some nasty winds. This under severe limits right now, right there alone. It looks like A1A. Worst is this west, or the worst is this south, of Crescent Beach with the wind at this point. We'll just have to continue to monitor things. Let's see here. Again, things have really quieted down around Bradford County. There's some light rain right now. Marion County had that warning earlier, but now it's just a little bit of wind down there, maybe, and rain. Not much wind, probably, but again, a lot of areas slacking off, but other areas, this stuff's coming in from the west, and have to see how unstable things could be to cause this is weakened now, as we talked about more. This up here of a threat. It looks like it's getting closer and closer here. Stop the Herald. And okay, they just canceled a warning to the south, so officially don't have any more warnings locally, but again, I hate to wrap things up when it looks like we could have an issue here over the next little bit. I mean, it's kind of tricky on us here, as I keep checking some of my different resources in this more populated area. So, southern side of Lee County here, make sure we're emphasizing that as well. Some of this wind enhancement, whether it's severe weather or not, you could still get winds of about 50 miles an hour here in the gusts and the highest gusts. So keep that in mind as we're watching things here, as we're monitoring things. Again, this warning's been canceled, so it'll drop off here in a second. There you go. It's been taken away now, but just the storms aren't there to produce that wind to the surface. We'd like seeing those warnings get canceled early. I know we have some warnings out to the west, but those don't look like, especially this one. But this one here, we'll watch it, but they don't look like they're really a big threat here further east for the moment. There's a lot of boundaries in there. Things could always strengthen on us, so you gotta keep that in mind. Again, it's kind of like whack-a-mole here sometimes. You see some stronger winds there in Pike County, Alabama. Eventually, that could be in these northwestern counties, but it's to be a little while away. And this one right here sticks out like a sore thumb a little bit. I wish we had a better angle. I know there are some radars that have, like, specifically the one radar there that Gray Television has for the Columbus and Albany stations, kind of in this area. It probably does a better job with the wind in this area than what we can get from the Weather Service and the official radars. But again, we would say winds a little closer to the surface, but definitely seeing some wind potential. Winds about 50 miles an hour here, right along the Doherty-Terrell County line. Just watching these latest scans here. Okay, those actually look stronger. That one looks just a tad bit weaker. Which is good. Got a new warning out here now. That one area that did look a little more prominent, they're keeping a warning on it. That's going to 6 o'clock Eastern, which is 5 o'clock Central. So it's a situation really where if we were to get a warning area for that, it wouldn't be until the top of the hour. But in this area here now, yeah, it looks like it's starting to kind of pick back up. Yeah, that latest scan is south of Abbeville now, all of a sudden right picking up on a signature. So that would probably get us a warning in southwestern Georgia. A new warning over the next little bit. So got to keep that in mind. As things are very changeable here. You blink and it's all a different picture that you're dealing with sometimes, which makes things kind of tough. By the way, reports out of Alabama at 3:48 Central Time. Multiple trees reported down there in the eastern portion of Coffee County, including toward highways 167N and 189S. So some information coming in from the west right now. Speaking of the west, this stuff's coming in closer toward Albany from the west here. Closer toward the south side of Lee County there as well. We have the counties come together maybe just north of there. Could be the maximum point of some damage potential. Could end up getting a thunderstorm. Okay, we just got a thunderstorm warning for this area now. And 6:15, it's about to pop up. Okay, so Calhoun, Doherty, Lee, Terrell, and Worth now to 6:15. A severe thunderstorm warning just coming down now from the Weather Service in Tallahassee. The yellow box will pop up here momentarily. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning now for another hour for this area. Have extended all the way down there into Albany proper, even though we kind of showed you where we thought the worst of it was. Again, there's your warning. Let me move it up just a little bit to get it all in there. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning now being issued for Calhoun, Doherty, Lee, Terrell, and Worth counties, portions of those, for almost the next 60 minutes. Again, continuing to give you guys the updates here. Let me go ahead and go back on over here to what we're seeing. You see more cool type of air mass further down to the south and east in many spots, not St. John's and Flagler, but you can kind of see in between there's a pretty dampened, cool, weaker air mass. But we have this different story here further up toward the north and west. Look at that energy, over 4,000 joules per kilogram there of surface-based CAPE to work with. And you have stuff in Alabama we'll have to watch too, but this is now right here in southwestern Georgia. And this area, this corridor of energy could be key to try to keeping this threat here in place. So let's see what we have here. Yeah, that looks like it's a little bit stronger now. Okay, so this warning includes areas around Leesburg, Albany, East Albany, the Marine Corps Logistics Base, Turner City, Walker, Sasser, Stocks. You have Radium Springs in there, Forester, Lockett Crossing, South Albany, Southwest Georgia Region Airport, Palmyra, Clark's Mill, Dawson Municipal Airport, even over toward Bridges Crossroads, Century. Kind of get the idea. So a severe thunderstorm warning now for the next while for parts of our coverage area here. You have areas of Lee County here, for instance, under this threat. Some stronger winds along US 82 not out of the question here. At this hour, we're looking towards Sasser and Terrell County. So that's something to be mindful of. You have here in northwestern Doherty County the wind. I definitely have to be kind of cognizant of that as the time does move along. Let's go back to that strong storm further southeast. See if it's getting any closer to needing a warning or not. It's right to the coast. That might preclude a warning. You have marine land there. Still some wind enhancement there just on the south side of marine land. And all in here, though, you could get gusts upward of 50. So keep that in mind. It's just under severe limits. Let's get back up over here now. Go to that EOX radar. You see the strong wind there, 50-mile-an-hour wind. Yeah, we're starting to see that, unfortunately, now build back to the south a bit. Earlier on, you saw how it was kind of picking up here, which would have gotten more into there, which would be a problem for Lee County. But now we have some issues there, but we have to have issues maybe for northern Doherty County, depending on how this tracks. Even more just further back, looks like it wants to kind of develop on us here as well and strengthen a bit. So got to keep that in mind as the timeline does move along. Again, seeing some things come along here in the Chattanooga tree was reported down in Marietta. That information coming on in here to us. Those winds that we had earlier there would indicate that potential. That's what we came on. We had a warning there, confirmed warning that was moving into our area, and then it just fell apart, storming this. But now this is really taking off here, further up into southwestern Georgia, and it's now posing a threat toward Albany and Leesburg here in surrounding zones over the next. It looks like here a good bit, going all the way out to about 6:15, so almost an hour. But that could always change, could get extended or expired early, or maybe it does go all the way out here to the next 60 minutes, which we're a little bit less than that at this point. But again, I'm just continuing to give you guys the very latest. I know, watching things west of town or west of this right now, so just moving in now. Be aware there in parts of Albany and Leesburg there. Take precautions. It's at least at 20 miles an hour. There's a good report of another tree down there toward Cottondale. That was around 3:18 Central Time earlier this afternoon. Some of those winds knocking down trees there toward portions of the area. So again, this nasty weather moving in. You see all that lightning there on the map. But then you have the wind. These winds here indicative of gusts maybe upward of 50 to 60 miles an hour, not out of the question from Roy. I mean, you could see all the way down here to all the way up in here maybe. So again, I just got to be kind of careful there. Got to be kind of careful. I mean, Roy all the way up here to all the way to the edge of the box, not out of the question, but there's some areas we've been kind of highlighting that would have a little bit higher potential maybe for some of those winds to reach on down. So 5:23 is the time right now here on this Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. It's going to take a quick break. Yeah, there's some more information. I'll be back at 5:30 unless something really dramatic like a tornado warning occurs. Gets issued. I don't jump back in earlier on, but otherwise, I'll see at 5:30 with more weather information here as we get more reports of issues out of Jackson County in Florida. I know the other day around Dothan, they had so much wind come on through that area. They had a lot of damage and not get any warnings in their area. That was back on Saturday, but getting some warnings in their area today and getting reports of damage in just outside of our area. Quite a few reports there. Campbellton, we were talking about it a second ago, a tree reported down even. So issues here that we're watching, and we'll be back with more here at the bottom of the hour. Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here in the Weather Center at the bottom of the hour right now, 5:30. Seeing a couple more warnings pop up on that map there north southwest Georgia. Unfortunately, seeing some more areas of concern here now. We're kind of talking about the potential here for some more areas of threat. So let's go ahead and kind of break them down for you right now in other mode. This area here, Roy, developing pretty rapidly here. You can kind of see a boundary in there now. Southern Doherty, Central Mitchell, Baker, and Georgia's Wesleyan, Calhoun, and Northeastern Early counties all included there until about 6:30. At 5:24, a severe thunderstorm was located near Arlington, or 8 miles southwest of Morgan, moving east at about 20 miles an hour. So we're talking about areas like Newton, Putney, Blakely, Camilla, Arlington, Baconton, Leary, Douglasville, Damascus, Ivy's Mill, over toward Holt there. You have Mimsville, Williamsburg, Hentown, Rowena, Milford, Red Store Crossroads, Crestview, Cuba, Hawkinstown there under this warning until about 6:30, so for almost another hour here you have this concern east of Blakely here, and we're just going to go ahead and be watching that. You see that area picking up pretty quickly there. Some wind damage not out of the question south of State Road 62. You have this wind here just east of Arlington as well. So situation here where we just have to be kind of mindful of what's going on here at this present point in time. And I know we're getting some more new information here. So let me see what we got. Okay, this is just outside of the area, Geneva, Holmes, and Walton, until 5:15 Central Time. Let me go ahead and zoom back out here. Got another new warning back west. This was issued here in between updates, and this is for areas there in Alabama. First off, areas of Henry, that's outside of the area. And as we get into toward the area, south central Clay and northwestern Early counties included until about 6:15 Eastern Time. At 5:26, a severe thunderstorm was located near Abbeville, moving southeast at 15 miles an hour. Abbeville, Haleburg, Barnes, Miller, Hardwickburg, Hayes, Willis, Crossroads as well. So again, that's where we have that potential. This is a new warning, the newest of the new warnings. That's outside of the area. We had the reports of some issues on Mariana earlier, but that all fell apart. I mean, as quick as you could ever imagine. I mean, wow, that stuff just really fell completely apart. It was so vigorous over Mariana, now not the case anymore. But now the stuff to the north really taken off here, and it's in the more favorable instability parameter there. So in that more instability type of environment. So let's go ahead and look here and continue to watch. This is strong thunderstorm activity toward our southeastern area. We just got a report on Crescent Beach of a gust there to 45 miles an hour. So again, that's near I-95 in that area, and we'll just continue to watch things there in that regard to see if we need a warning. But it's getting there really right at the coast, as we've talked about. Really, the focus as the models have been saying, really starting to be more about southwestern Georgia. And we could have some damage potential moving toward Albany here pretty soon as well. This is that warning that we were talking about a little while ago that remains in effect until 6:15 for areas there. Doherty, Lee, northeastern Calhoun, southern Terrell, west central Worth counties. So at 5:17 anyway, a severe thunderstorm was located 11 miles south of Dawson, moving east at about 20 miles an hour. So again, something to kind of be mindful of then in that regard. Something to be kind of mindful of in that regard for sure. And we're getting warning to continue there toward Dale and Henry back in Alabama. We'll just have to continue here to track things. I know Leesburg, Albany, East Albany, Marine Corps Logistics Base, Turner City, Walker, Sasser, Stocks, Radium Springs, Forester, Lockett Crossing, South Albany, Southwest Georgia Regional Airport, Palmyra, Clarks Mill, Dawson Municipal Airport, Bridges Crossroads, Century there, all under this potential for some damage. So, again, not maybe major damage for the most part here. This is summertime stuff. There's a little bit more push to it than normal, but not talking about like tornadoes or anything along those lines. But that's not expected. But as you can see here, southeast of Bancroft and Arlington, a little bit of wind enhancement at least, so we'll keep our eyes on it here. That potential as this does move over toward Milford over the next little bit. We're just going to try to keep giving you the latest updates. We have 3 local warnings all in southwest Georgia here, and then in terms of expiration time, this one here, if you can see my mouse, there you go. Oh, that one goes until 6:30. This one up here, it goes until over the areas of Doherty until about, it looks like 6:15. I know other kind of clips Doherty at 6:30, but then you have this one further out toward the west here. This is getting in toward Georgia, but also includes parts of Alabama. And well, that threat there, that's going to go to 6:15. So, still going to have to be with you maybe for a little longer, maybe a good bit longer, depending on what kind of transpired in that area there. Not as much lightning, but you see the wind enhancement on that is worth noting. It is worth noting there in that part of the region. We'll have to watch to see if that kind of translates off into Georgia. Then you have wind enhancement here south of Arlington. You have really west of Albany there as well. Some wind enhancement. I have to watch the airport side. Just under the gusts. 47 miles an hour around 5:30 at the Flagler County Emergency Management Marineland station there. So that's just getting on in here. But as we get further back up toward the north and west here, again, I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest. I keep trying to keep tabs on everything. Look at that wind kind of picking up now. South of Arlington, west of Milford. We'll have to continue to watch that. You see around Albany here. You see around Albany, definitely some heavier downpours moving in on that area over next little bit. We'll have to just monitor the progress there of that, and you have the wind potential. This here, not necessarily an imminent threat to our area. This here could be if it kind of is able to hold together, but it looks like the boundary out ahead, it might be able to kind of weaken some of that down. We'll have to wait and see. See if some of this stuff it could get either strengthened or weakened by the boundary as it tries to come on in here. We'll have to kind of wait and see, but a lot of boundaries cause things to change rapidly, really increase rapidly in strength or decrease rapidly, weaken rapidly in terms of the overall strength. So there's west of Milford, went to about 50, showing up in eastern Early County. You see west of Albany there. You have that area of wind enhancement. You see south of Leesburg there. You have some stuff coming in Lee County there. Could have a little bit of damage with trees and tree limbs and power lines. Those could be impacted to some degree. Not completely something we can rule out here. Maybe a power pole getting knocked over with some strong gusts there and or that damaging range, but something that's not an overwhelming concern here at this point. But it can happen. It has happened occasionally in summertime, so this summer here as well. As we go ahead and go back toward the south, you can see south of Arlington there right now. Again, the wind enhancement. More stuff coming out of Henry County, Alabama, as we continue live right now on the different platforms here to protect you, protect your friends, and protect your family. Again, live right now on Facebook there, Casey Cloud WX, Cloud Weather, Twitter at Cloud Casey, YouTube at Cloud Weather, and then Twitch Cloud Weather, and even that website has the links available for the live coverage, and you have that radar tab there for the interactive look at things as well. I even have on daily history. I haven't got all the information in there, but I have all the highs through yesterday for the area here over the last couple of years, almost. I mean, as we look here, almost 2 3/4 there in terms of the time of and just in level of years included. So again, just giving you guys the latest there on everything. I know we've had in our 2 days previous to today, Two of the three hottest days we've had since we've had that weather station up. So just to kind of tell the story about how nasty things have been in terms of that heat. And sometimes, like Sunday, we had really not getting the storms around. It just got so hot, 101, which highest we've had here. On that, we just had a setup where we weren't able to get the storms really forming enough. But then 100 yesterday, time our now second highest reading per se. I have to look at the decimal points because you can kind of, I guess, break ties that way in a way. But we had our hottest temperature since we've had that up since start and kept records on it since the first day of 2021 and 101 on Sunday, 100 yesterday, and that was there right in that range of the 100 reading back last June. So definitely a lot of heat, some different things to keep tabs on. But right here you see the winds if you're wondering what these numbers are. These are wind gusts on the screen though. Talking about heat, might as well pop these up, the latest numbers. See, Albany's cooled down a few, and that latest update there to 89 degrees there in Albany and Dougherty County. You see 92 in Camilla, 82 Babers. There's some areas cooler, where it's already a little cooler. The storms didn't stay together. Instead, we saw storm formation in areas where it is a little bit warmer. Some stuff really coming together, being a more volatile, more prominent. You see 100-degree reading there in south central Alabama right now around Florala. Just to kind of touch on that, is again, providing this live coverage. It's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family. Even on YouTube there, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, it's free. Just like everything on this list, it's free. They're all free. And for you guys at home, just enable notifications. You'll be able to see when we're coming on the air with the very latest there. YouTube platform, if you have all the notifications set there, then you'll be able to know when we're coming on with live updates and giving that latest information here in terms of whether it's just forecast update or severe weather coverage and sometimes even tornado coverage here. So this is something to kind of bear in mind. Let's go ahead and go back. I see we have a warning around Savannah. Let's pop this up. It's not in our area and not where our focus, but I'll just mention it here. See some stronger winds. You have some stronger winds there. Northeast of Macon, some stuff around Macon, south side of town. It looks like right around Warner Robins. Getting into some pretty nasty weather right now. So a nasty evening commute maybe around Warner Robins at Perry, Georgia, Byron. You kind of get the idea. I haven't talked about those areas too much over the years, really, because those aren't in our covered area. But it's just what we're kind of looking at radar here. We'll mention that it's just a bit thunderstorm with some 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible. It's about 6:15 toward Bibb, Twiggs, Peach, and Houston counties. So, again, something to watch up there. Let's go back down to the south. So as we get here, you can see the Fort Rucker radar. Looking back in our zone, this stuff is just west there. With this one's just starting to come in. And you have western parts of Baker County, Georgia. As we keep checking things here, some stronger wind pixels starting to show up here south of Milford's. That's definitely something to take note of there. Some maybe a little bit of turning of the winds there moving over to Albany. That looks a little bit weaker than it did a little while ago, though. This may be becoming more dominant down here. A little bit less populated, obviously, than up toward Albany, but still some folks in here could get impacted over the next little bit. So I'm just continuing to watch things here. Let's go ahead and zoom back out just a bit. Trying to see exactly what is happening. I see it. We got a record event report here today. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Okay, St. Simon's Island, they tied their old record set back in 2011 there of 97, reaching 97 here today. So kind of interesting to take note of there. Let me go ahead and keep checking things. Again, you have our warnings continuing right now in southwestern Georgia. Let's go back to the broad perspective. We'll do that here real quick. You'll be able to see we have that marginal 1 out of 5 risk in play for severe conditions. But some of this area has already been suppressed at this point to be harder to get those toward like Live Oak, Lake City, Keystone, Gainesville. We've already kind of had some of that earlier on in parts of these zones, but now a little more suppressed. Not saying it couldn't destabilize some more, but you can kind of see that suppressing that's taking place, lower energy values, so lesser chance for more development. And it has cooled down, which at least is some welcome relief for you guys from that really, really, really hot temperature type of trend. I mean, we'll have more storms as we look ahead, and eventually we'll kind of start to clear on out and as we look ahead there in terms of lower rain chances. But it's going to be a busy, wet radar here, wet picture next couple of days. So we'll be tracking that. We'll have details here on some other specifics. But again, just trying to see what we got here. Let me see what's going on, Roy. You can kind of see southern parts of St. Johns County getting out of a flag, little county. And that's a little bit stronger there, but again, that's getting out of the picture. It's really destabilized up here around Coffee County, Douglas. So Tipton as well. That could be an issue if this wants to hold together. Some of this could. It very well could then, which would be not what we want to see. Because this stuff, if it was in a less favorable environment, it would be able to maybe stabilize more so the environment, and then the storms wouldn't be as significant. You see Milford, a gust about 50 in here possible. This is a more rural area. We weren't already on for the threat toward Albany, and the threat that was really coming in earlier to the south here, and the like. I might not stick on here for this area, but there's enough there combined with this, and we have to the west, and just the overall grand scheme is down a little bit longer because we have a warning till they hadn't gone away for Albany. We'll have to see if they get some damage. I know it's not very impressive, but that's enough that a little bit of damage could happen right into the most popular areas of Albany here at the end of rush hour, per se. So, again, I don't want to let your guard down here then, even if it doesn't look as impressive on radar. You could still get a little bit of damage there around Albany. The trees being knocked down, tree limbs being knocked down, maybe a power line, something like that, maybe even a power pole, and less chance of a situation of that happening though. But again, less likely. So let's see what we got here. Then we have some warnings in central Georgia. Still, we've been touching on you. Slide County there, Marion County in Georgia there, north of Ellaville. Definitely getting some conditions that are pretty treacherous up there. You know, we've been national civil threat to our city of Virginia Beach. Considerable threat there for some wind damage in that region. And then North Carolina, 70-mile-an-hour winds possible toward Nats and Edgecombe and Halifax and Wilson counties according to emergency management. So some busy areas here as we're looking here. Busy day for some folks, but again, I just continue to track things a little bit longer. I know it looks like some stuff out in Alabama. So advisory information, Dale, and it looks like Henry. So maybe one of these that's under a warning will get dropped here. And soon didn't look as impressive back out west. But then we have these areas further east we can't let our guard down with. I know this one, depending on if we get reports from Albany, they may let this go after I get past Albany, but they probably want to just keep it there just in case. This one here is a more impressive one, probably. Definitely could have some wind potential in it, so gotta be mindful of that here. Can't lay your guard down in this type of situation around Milford and the like there. As we're looking toward Georgia's Baker County. I know we covered 2 Baker counties, one in Florida, one in Georgia. It's like we covered 2 Clay counties as well, one in Florida and one in Georgia. So again, I'm just going to keep on checking things here. Trying to make sure you guys have the latest to protect you, your friends, your family. Again, looking over Albany there. You're not seeing as much right there on that, but again, there's a little bit of turning of winds in there at height. So again, it's hard to say for sure. Safety Robbins, it'll give us a second opinion if nothing else. Yeah, it's not showing a whole bunch there. It's more to the south. So we'll have to just keep on checking that then. So some of these warnings I mean, don't look quite as impressive. This one a little more impressive though. Just north of Damascus is south of Milford. Some stronger winds. Again, just gonna continue to watch things here. Continue to give you guys the very latest on what's going on. Let's go to some of our other modes here. And we have our infrared satellite that I think we could try to use here in just a second. So you see the quarter cloud tops for that stuff further back to the west versus what we have to the east here. I'll take the radar off as well. That'll help clear things up a bit more. I mean, but in general, that stuff it doesn't have quarter cloud tops for the west, and that indicates stronger and more severe activity coming on in the picture in general. More robust accent is what we're dealing with. So, again, just going to continue here to watch, continue here to track the progression of things. You see less lightning in Florida, more lightning in Georgia, the general trend. Let's see if there's any mesoscale discussions. There's one way up to the north there. Probably not going to issue a watch in that region. It's already too late at this point. Probably don't want to issue one of those anyway, but they were talking about it for a while. It's just that it goes away at 6 there, that discussing period per se. But again, let's see what we got with the instability again. You can see maybe it's decayed just a little bit of that badness up. Yeah, you see some of that purple's gone away. So hopefully that'll be a good sign here. And speaking of watches, I just issued another one of those mesoscale discussions. Okay, so that's that area here in our southwestern Georgia county. They're talking about. Let's go over some really technical data here. Let's put the radar back up. Let's go over the really technical data we don't always get into. So, Storm Prediction Center here at about 4:51 Central, 5:51 Eastern send this out. And there's a 20% chance of a watch in that blue circled area. So unlikely, but scattered thunderstorms have produced occasional damaging gusts this afternoon and remain likely to maybe produce that potential there for the isolated wind damage into the evening. But given the lack of storm organization, a weather watch is not anticipated in terms of discussing the area there across portions of the southeast. As we've been seeing scattered and numerous thunderstorms that have been ongoing ahead of a frontal zone across the Florida Panhandle, southeast Alabama, and southwestern Georgia. So over the last couple of hours, occasional strong to severe gusts, including a 59-mile-an-hour one at Mariana, have been noted with a few of these storms. A strongly unstable environment with 3,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE there is supporting this, and is expected to continue supporting strong updrafts there through the evening. So, kind of looking at a mixed layer CAPE, and then, however, with little vertical shear, storm organization has remained limited to pulse multi-cell clusters. The strong buoyancy and precipitable water values over 2 inches will support the risk for isolated wet microbursts. With the strongest storms and isolated damaging gusts will remain possible into this evening before nocturnal stabilization here begins to limit the potential for strong updrafts. And given the limited potential for storm organization and a lack of broader synoptic support, a weather watch is unlikely. So that's kind of the storyline there. And that's the good news. I know it gets kind of technical from time to time, but I know we just have so many threats this time of year, day after day after day. Thankfully, it's mid-August now. We're winding our summer season down with storms here pretty soon. Not yet, but pretty soon here, folks. But then that means we could have other hazards. So some of you like the summer storms, other you really don't like the summer storms here. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. But we'll have, maybe a nicer period ahead, but there's also always that chance you could have tropical cyclones play a role in our local forecast, or could even have a situation where you end up having just wet weather at times, maybe nor'easters or the like. So, and as we get into the fall months, an El Nino pattern would support maybe more chances of severe weather. I mean, other days will be really nice though, but could have good stretches of weather for maybe a week, and then you have a round of severe storms. Sometimes a little more often with the storms, depending on the overall setup, and then And then you have cold snaps and you have freezes here in play. And, well, this type of setup, in theory, could promote a very isolated chance here of some wintry weather in parts of our zones. But that's something that's really speculative at this point. But we'll watch and we'll think about it here and see what could happen. So, again, just looking at things right now, though, we still have these warnings here on the board in the yellow boxes until, well, 6:15 for looks like some of these, and then 6:30 as we get there for one of these. So that's kind of the storyline right now. Kind of the storyline at this point in time. So I know it's the one there toward Albany. That's the one of those that goes to 6:15. Then you have further back that goes to 6:15, but the one south of town goes to 6:30. So again, just going to continue to track things here. See if there are any questions from any of the viewers at home. I don't see any, but just again, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for trusting me here on this Tuesday evening, really, Tuesday evening, as if I'm on for another hour. We were on for a while earlier on, longer than this, on the different platforms, and we're on again here to protect you, protect your friends, and protect your family. So that's what it's all about here in the Weather Center. Let me go ahead and go back on over right now to our other view. Let me go ahead and turn this on. So there you go. So some stronger winds around Milford. Maybe just south of town, maybe a little bit stronger, but even some north of town there as well. The wind hands moving toward Albany doesn't look as impressive. It's cooled down a good bit there too. So hopefully that stuff's kind of falling off there toward Albany, but still, on a tree limb or a tree or something like that falling. But definitely seems like the focus is down here more. This warning, this not going to be a threat much longer, I don't think. Wind really broadening out that way. So that's good. Again, we have this stuff off the coast there toward Flagler and St. John's, really. It's really about this area right here. So in terms of population, you have Newton, Baconton, Putney, Camillin, and Doran. Maybe it'll word Moultrie later and or Tipton. Could split a difference between those. If that ends up needing another warning here as we look ahead. So, okay, this expired there on Henry, I know. That was one further back, not in our area, but nonetheless, it's a sign that some of these here, that one may go once it gets past Albany, maybe sooner, but if we don't get the type of winds in Albany that we thought could happen, then they may go ahead and drop that one pretty soon. 23, 27, sun up around Albany over the last little bit. So, again, just continue to watch things here. Continue to give you guys the latest information. It looks like it's really just focusing further on down there. Let me go ahead. Yeah, that looks like we'll head towards the wind. Milford there, northwestern Baker, Georgia. Pretty rural out here. Could have some damage toward Newton, Camilla. Honestly, if we see this trend continue, with it being more in that rural corridor of southwest Georgia, I may wrap this up here if we get some of these other warnings off the board. And just kind of give you a heads up on where this is headed, because kind of a situation where the population density and the damage potential might not overlap enough for us to stay on. But we'll stay on a little longer here, see what happens with some of these warnings. And there's a warning north of our area. Catching my eye still north of Ellaville with some of the worst that's there. And looks like I need to switch radars for a better view. But let me switch here to the Robbins and north of Ellaville, north of Oglethorpe there with some of the worst of the winds in Georgia. See some nasty winds around Warner Robins still. But let's get back down toward the south here on Albany. Around Albany, you can see the worst is more to the south. Toward the south here at this point. But we'll just continue to watch, continue to track here. So there you go around Milford. I've been on for a while here today. Still planning to do that full update later tonight. I know last week, this week, we're trying to do that versus last week. We ended up having a situation where we decided not to because we were on for like 4 hours straight as we were nearing that update time. But at this point, I know we've been on for a couple hours here. Plus, at this moment, when you add everything together, cumulative today, But again, right now we're not quite in a situation where it would make sense to get rid of the update. But if this keeps continuing, we'll have to be on for hours and hours on end still, and could end up changing our mind. Okay, so they just canceled the warning further back toward the west. We're just going to have to keep on tracking things, but this one's gone now, so that's become more rain. So some lightning here in the western Doherty is moving toward Albany, but most of the wind's down here. Again, that one's going to go away. This is a little bit less of a concern, but more population, a little more of a concern, but less population. At least it's not really, this is overlapping here, but still could have some problems for folks. So, got to keep that in mind. Did any questions still here as we're at just past the top of the hour? Again, not seeing the stuff toward the east like we were earlier on. We actually had a couple of damage reports, though, even though we didn't have warnings in play at the time they happened. But a little after 1 o'clock, I had some damage toward Union County there, the Worthington Springs area there, some issues, and then Middleburg as well. So it's always something to kind of touch on and keep in mind. Just going to do one in Coffee County in Alabama now. So they're going to go ahead and issue a threat there. This could be coming into play. Issue for that threat, and then you see, okay, so they just updated the warning to cancel out Worth County, but continue areas there of Calhoun, Doherty, Lee, and Terrell about 6:15. So, okay, so that's something that's just coming on. And there's a new update on the polygon. So, yeah, focusing more to the south. This is pretty impressive here, though. We're seeing winds close to 50 in southern parts of Calhoun County, Georgia. Then you have around Milford there. You have winds of a little over 50 still. So that's something to be bearing in mind. This area moving toward Newton and Baconton and Dover in there. Maybe just Clip and Camilla. You see areas between Tipton and Moultrie could be in line later, but it depends on how long it holds together. So again, just a heads up, we wrap it up because there's not an overall overlap into the threats enough. There could be some damage and winds in that corridor, so make sure you stand inside and really getting away from those windows. And that's the best really information you can follow here in this type of situation. So again, around Albany proper, though, it doesn't look as aggressive, but there's still a warning for part of that area. So let's go ahead and check the statements. They canceled Worth County, but a 601 and severe thunderstorm was located over Turner City or over Albany, moving east at 20 miles an hour according to the Weather Service. So warning goes for the 12 minutes for Doherty, South Central Lee, northeastern Calhoun, and South Central Terrell counties in southwestern Georgia. So we're talking about Albany, East Albany, the Marine Corps Logistics Base, Turner City, Aurora, Walker, Stocks, Radium Springs, and that's kind of storyline there. We got a Forester, Lockett Crossing in South Albany, Southwest Georgia Region Airport, Palmyra, even Ducker there, that community as well. So, we're getting updates on some more warning information. They've just gone ahead and canceled Early County under the warning in the south, but they're keeping Baker, Calhoun, and Doherty until 6:30. So still a lot of wind in there, as you can kind of tell. Get the trimming, there you go. So we have at about 6:03, severe thunderstorm was located near Leary, or 9 miles northwest of Newton, moving east at about 20 miles an hour. So Newton, Putney, Camilla, Baconton, Leary, Ivy's Mill, Milford, Red Store, Crossroads, Crestview, Holt, Hawkinstown, Mimsville, Mitchell County Airport, Bermuda, Williamsburg, Elmore-Dale, WMA, Bethany, and just some other communities included. In a situation where we'll probably here continue to watch things here a little bit longer on air at least, on the stream, so I'm talking about. But again, just to remind you guys, though, if we do wrap it up and have warnings that we don't think justifies coming on, we'll just post about them on Facebook at Casey Cloud Reacts and Cloud Weather, and then Twitter at Cloud Casey. So I'm just kind of touching on that here for the viewer at home. For you guys at home watching, so you guys are staying up to date. But right now we have to be on all the different platforms and live streaming coverage to protect you, your friends, and your family. I know we have a little bit lower criteria, obviously, for being on than the TV stations in many areas. These severe thunderstorm warnings, it's kind of hard for them to want to be on during maybe the newscast here on air, or I mean, you can't even be on digital really when you're doing a newscast, and it's just kind of hard for them, and this stuff, a situation where the digital side of things they don't stay on as long as we stay on for these severe thunderstorm warnings. And this time of year, I know things happen so often, but we just have to stay prepared here. Just have to stay prepared and be prepared for these storms. They can still be more problematic than you would think. We don't want anybody caught off guard, even these are technically summertime storms. They can still be problematic to folks there across the area. So let me go ahead and see what we got around Milford there. Some stronger winds in that area, still about 50 miles an hour. Okay, so and in Albany, not seeing those type of winds, but still could have some issues. You never know. Right on the edge of things. Definitely seeing how things break up to the north though a good bit. As you can see, you have to back it up and go forward. But we'll just continue to watch, continue to track. So again, that one in north may go away at 6:15. This one until set for 6:30 with the expiration. There's still a lot of wind energy down toward Milford, northwest of Newton there. It's got to be cognizant of what's going on. So what we're going to do right now, take another break to about 6:15. We'll be back then with more information to protect you, protect your friend, and protect your family as we have to break back in sooner for something like a tornado warning, which is not likely, not expected in this type of situation. So likely seeing you back here about 6:15 with more other information. Severe thunderstorm warnings continue for portions of southwestern Georgia. Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here with listener at 6:15 on this Tuesday, on this August 15th, 2023. We have one severe thunderstorm warning remaining on board right now. They're looking toward parts of Doherty County, not necessarily right into downtown Albany now, as that warning there was expired as we were looking back here, it would seem, over the last few moments. But again, seeing this a threat continuing here. Let me go ahead and zoom one in. You can see what we're talking about. I know we're also seeing a report of some damage back out toward Early County. See that there as well. Let me go put my mouse on the screen there for you. You can see where I'm at with that actually as I go ahead and move around, and you do see that trees are reported down on Highway 45 right before you got toward Arlington there, 1 mile north of Rowena there, that community in Early County. So this stuff has caused damage. This complex of storms has caused damage. We'll have to see if they extend this warning further here past 6:30. It's very possible that they could based on the history and based on the velocity, but we'll have to see if it holds together. You see some boundaries involved here. We had weakening earlier when we had boundaries involved. It does look like it's weakened some over the last little bit. So by 6:30, maybe it doesn't need a warning anymore. That'd be some good news. So just have to wait and see here as the timeline does continue. I know we have some stuff further back toward the west in Coffee County. It's a little bit weaker maybe in terms of some energy we were seeing maybe with it earlier on, but so to continue to track things, continue to give you guys the very latest. I know we've been on for a while, so sorry if I'm losing my voice just a bit here. We've been on for about, over an hour last time, over an hour this time. So getting upwards of about 3 hours here with coverage today, which is a pretty busy day. But again, you can see the two warnings out there. We'll have to see the energy values because I know some of these have dropped some. We still have a good pocket of energy there toward Fitzgerald and Tipton and Douglas. So if some of this stuff can kind of get back in there, maybe get some more initiation, and you never know. But if not, then maybe we'll be not seeing as many storms later on tonight. But the chances are that we could still have some more with the overall pattern here as we have the overall scenario kind of pushing on in there. You can kind of see we have some changes in wind direction here that kind of tell that weather story. So again, you can kind of see the winds coming from northwest there, but not so much toward the south, and that kind of shows that we're trying to get cool air in, but it doesn't really make it in too much. I mean, it's cool right now because of the rain, but that's kind of the storyline. But you can kind of see we are getting some storms around Daytona, maybe a little stronger, but in our area in the Florida zones, we're not seeing too much right now. It doesn't seem anymore. We had the gusty winds. Flagler County we were touching on earlier on, but really not too much there, except for this one warning, which it does seem like it's on the weakening trend here. But we'll just have to continue to watch things, continue to track here. Again, zooming back on over, you can kind of see right around the south of Milford, there's still enough wind in here where I think there's a chance they could extend this. So that's why I don't want to let our guard down, even though it looks a tad weaker than it did earlier. We had this up to the north weekend, and I didn't get a warning again there past 6:15. This still here, we could still get another warning past 6:30. A little bit of wind enhancements around Putney showing up right now, and we'll just watch there, but it does seem like this is overall decayed. I mean, you see how it was in that line there, red and well-defined edge there, and now, well, it's become a lot more murky, which would generally indicate a little bit less of a chance for damage and wind. We'll watch that airport side, just that side of the warning, southwest toward the airport, to see if the numbers go up there some or not, but again, we'll just have to keep on tracking things here as the timeline does continue. Again, Doherty County proper and Albany, you see light to moderate rain right there in the ward, maybe a little more populated zones, but south side of the airport you have heavier downpours, and then you have even heavier action maybe as we get dust there south of the airport. And we have the warning in play. I mean, at this point, you could almost clip the bottom part of this warning out. So I'm not seeing as much right down here south of Newton. I mean, not that they really need to do that at this point because the warning only goes another 10 minutes, but they could, I suppose, if they wanted to, and maybe even clear a little bit back on the back side there. But again, just continue to watch things, continue to monitor things. There is some action there around Putney. We'll just have to keep on monitoring just to see how it comes together. But everything looks a lot weaker. I kind of want to see if they extend this or not, because even if they extend this here, again, we've said it earlier, we might not stay on, and then we kind of end up staying on because of just the overall setup, situation, and play. But if they extend this one, then maybe we don't stay on. We just give you the heads up, so at least we don't have to do another post about it. And then sometimes it might take you a little while to see that, or you're just kind of a little bit maybe in terms of time and push back a few minutes from getting a notification. So again, just sticking with it a little longer to see what they decide to do here. I mean, I'm seeing 40, 45, which, I mean, for this part of the radar site, I mean, that view from it, I'm saying, I mean, it's not that weak, actually. You see over here, closer there, 45 Bacon, and you have some winds there. I mean, these winds aren't necessarily getting down to the surface, but it's a situation where it's not the weakest storm signature action that you've seen. So keep that in mind, bear that in mind here as we continue. I know we've talked about our areas further down in the south today. Had the storms down in Florida earlier. We had some warnings. Ended up having a damage report, except for that lightning issue there. Where Duval County, I believe it was. We had our reports earlier on there with the wind damage before we had warnings in play. It would seem may have had some wind damage there after the warnings. I suspect we probably did, because there's some power outages that hadn't been reported in though. But we had, in terms of the damage, but we had issues around Middleburg and Union County there before we had any official warnings. So again, that's just the way it goes sometimes. In summer, it doesn't happen like this as much here other parts of the year, but in summertime, things around this part of the country are notorious for being very hard to forecast, very hard to warn for, and just overall, I mean, very hard to understand for people, especially non-meteorologists. Meteorologists have a pretty good understanding, but things still can be erratic here this time of year. So again, there's a covered map for 62 counties. We're trying to keep you guys safe and informed here. We're in Bradford County. But we keep our eyes on our 62 counties, some national concern data necessary when they're really important and big, but really our focus is local. Again, things around this part of the country notorious for being tricky. I mean, hardly any other part of the country has to deal with a setup quite like this here, day after day, where you have warnings that'll come some days, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have the damaging winds there, we have sea breezes involved, and it really kind of makes things tricky, but it's not something that's like a hurricane where the impacts are just really, really significant or widespread, or a squall line. But on the local level, those impacts for a few folks can be pretty substantial. That's why we have to cover them. That's why we have to be on. I know some places do it a little bit different, but I think it's important for us to take these situations seriously, because they can be deadly on a very micro scale level here. I mean, you can have a lightning strike. Of course, we can't just be on for all storms that are producing lightning this time of year. We never get any sleep. But my point is, when we have these severe storms, that's a higher chance of the potential for some issues. Of course, you have predator.com/radar for an interactive look at things. We're not on the air, but I know just in general, just the situation here. Lightning can be dangerous this time of year. So can the wind threats. And those are your biggest predominant concerns here. The wind threats are when we get warnings in play. Those yellow boxes pop one up on the screen. We don't go for one for all of them. But we go on for a lot of them. We have advisories. Those we really don't push too much unless they're word like Bradford County. And Stark specifically, actually, was the way I do that in terms of posting those toward Facebook there. KC Cloud Reacts Clouds, weather, and then, of course, we occasionally, like we did a couple weeks ago, have to jump on for one of those. We don't generally do that, but we saw damage potential coming out of that, really, even though we didn't have an official warning. So things can be really tricky this time of year, is my point. You always got to stay weather aware. At least these aren't like squall lines or hurricanes. I mean, other parts of the country get it worse with more density in terms of those out, more population density with those out of electricity. They get less maybe storms this time of year, but they get more issues. We get, more days of storms, and it kind of divides itself out. So I mean, it just comes all at once in some parts of the country, though. This time of year with less waves of energy, less waves of storm acts, and so anyway, again, continuing to watch things here, trying to give you guys the latest on what's going on. You can kind of see not much with the energy values now. At a ward like Lake City, I mean, 800 joules per kilogram. And now, if this was in the winter time, that would be really sufficient if you have a lot of SEER in place. But it's a situation we have a lot of high energy values, high CAPE, and then not so much with the SEER. When the winter months, you can have low energy and high SEER, and that's something to kind of keep in mind. I know earlier in the summer we had a situation where we were getting toward higher SEER and higher CAPE, and that's when we had the tornado threat. It was so weird and anomalous there for June, but really kind of on the edge of summer at that point. But again, official, I mean, summer in a way, but meteorological summer, which we're already starting. That's where we were now. But again, just kind of watching things. And with El Nino, we could be in a situation where we get more contrast, really, with the air masses. And I mean, we could have more winter weather possible, but then we could also have a situation here, a situation really where we end up having more severe weather. We could have more tornado threats here in play, so we'll have to watch for that. So again, just something to kind of be mindful of here as we look ahead. I mean, it's August, and we have to watch for hurricane season the next 2 months or so. Really intently watch everything that develops. It only takes one, but then as we get past that, hopefully we get a situation where we're unscathed. But you never know. I mean, we have to watch November too. We know from Nicole. But really, the next 2 months are when you generally have the biggest concern here in the next 60 days or so. You had that biggest concern. Of course, Nicole was an outlier, but you have to watch all the way through November 30th to some degree. Don't get me wrong, but the biggest, most volatile storms, really, those next 60 days here, that's when you have your highest chance for those. But then, just be thinking about, I mean, sometimes you can get in October, even those squall lines, depending on the pattern you're in. But you have to start watching for tornadoes, in terms, not tropical tornadoes, but like, and the Earth's firing this morning. I mean, you could kind of tell everyone is concerned about it, trying to switch in topics. So we're going to wrap it up soon. Of course, we'll have a full update later tonight here, and we'll go into details on some different things here. But just to kind of finish my thought a little bit here, and I might check the radar on this here again in a second. But then we have to start watching for maybe those storm threats here to come into play. Here we have severe weather potential. That's the more about shear and energy that could interact into the Gulf. There's warmer temperatures that could help keep the shear values there really in a situation where they're able to interact with higher CAPE values, higher energy values, and then that in turn could increase the tornado threat. So that, I mean, that's not what you want to hear. The El Nino situation is something where, I mean, you're already going to have just a pattern here that's already more favorable anyway, and then have some alarm bells going off. Doesn't mean it. I mean, it only takes one in terms of tropics. It only takes, I mean, one tornado for you, but it just seems like we'd have a higher chance of severe events as we get toward the fall, the winter, the spring. So be prepared here. Talking about squall lines, we have more organized severe weather than what we're seeing here with the threat for tornadoes. I mean, it's going out of ways. I don't mean to laugh about it, but my point is it's on the edge of the science, but it does seem like that would be more probable here at this point. We don't know. I mean, maybe we get lucky in our area. You don't really know until the events come together, but it's just with the Gulf of Mexico being warmer, it seems that we'd have more of a focus there in this pattern. Of course, you never hurricane. It can be really bad. Don't get me wrong. El Nino would mean less chance of that in the overall pattern, probably. But we had Andrew in a year that we didn't have many storms. But then we've had years where we have a bunch of storms, and they all recur pretty much out in the Atlantic, going back to the early 2010s. So you just never know here. You just never know. And that's why you're always going to have multiple ways to receive alerts. I mean, really have multiple ways to receive alerts any time of day, any time of month, any time of year, just in case. You got to always expect the unexpected in the meteorology world. So then we kind of went on a tangent there a little bit, going out further in the timeline by big ways, long ways. But again, just continuing to watch things here in terms of this in terms of this area of storms, this thing, and then things in general with what we're looking for later on in the timeline. You see around Putney and Baconton, still some winds. Maybe you see the gust of 34 at the airport just a little while ago. I don't think you could run a gust of 45 in here then, based on that gust at the airport, but probably not a 60 right now, which is the good news. But we'll keep tracking things. If we need to jump back in with more, we will, just to make sure you have multiple ways to receive alerts here, all times of day, month, year, not because of this stuff necessarily, though it's not something that would hurt, but as we look ahead in the months to come, and even in the 2024, we'll be watching, we'll be tracking here for you in the Weather Center, the very latest, but with no warnings in play, I think it's time to wrap things up for now. If we got more warnings, we'll at least post about them there, Facebook, Twitter, but maybe come on as well, based on the overall veracity of the acts in here. But it's always important here to keep in touch here with the latest here I'm giving you guys, but then it's just in the meteorology world, we always suggest having multiple ways to receive alerts, because maybe for whatever reason you don't see my information come up. So that's why it's important to have maybe a weather radio or something like that. So again, just something to kind of bear in mind as we're watching things. For now, thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me.